Hello, viewers. I'm Simon Preston, and this is Caribbean Football Weekly here on Reggae Boys Commentary. I'm Simon Preston. I'm joined, as usual, with my two presenters, Nathan Carr and Santokie Nagulendran. I know I've been out for the past couple of weeks or so, been on holiday, but I'm back. Nathan, Santokie, how are you guys doing?
Very well. Good to be back.
It's a pleasure
I'm
to
good,
hear.
Nick. I'm good, Simon. Good to have you back on the show.
Much appreciated, guys. You guys have been doing some brilliant work while I've been away, and there's been some good feedback as well in the comments and also on social media as well. So I appreciate you filling in my absence. And although there hasn't been much going on in the Caribbean, we appreciate the sort of discussion that you have been having. So for that, I'd like to thank you both. Now, Nathan? Have you been following the Olympics? Any Caribbean athletes been sticked out to you?
I couldn't really miss Usain Bolt, to be honest. But
Yeah.
there's been a lot of
Who's
talk
that?
about yeah, who's Usain Bolt?
Yeah.
Been a lot of talk about obviously how well Team GB have done.
Yeah.
I think was it 26, 27 medals in the end. So, but we have obviously been up to date with all the Caribbean nations as well. But something that really fascinated me just on this subject was I think it was the Bahamian 400-meter runner who threw herself over
Yeah.
I forgot her name now. I think it was
Sean A. Miller.
Sean
Sean A.
Miller.
Miller,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah. That was it. Thank you. Yeah, and threw herself over the line. I think she nicked it in the end, didn't she? She got gold through that. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Young girl too. I was surprised that she actually did throw herself over the line because she's 6'1", a meter 85. So I didn't see the need to do that. But Santoki, what do you say? 2020 Ghana will get a next medal.
Yeah, well, I think Guyana in the history of the Olympics have got one bronze, which was in 1980 when half the world boycotted the Olympics that year. So they made the most of it, got their bronze. So yeah, if there is cricket, the 2020 is their best shot of getting a medal.
Yeah, you never know. As we know, we have quite a bit of content to get through today, but the first thing I'd like to touch basically on from this topic that we have been talking about, we see Brazil have won the Olympic Games football tournament, a 16-team tournament, and it's been talked about in CONCACAF for quite some time. Why is there only 2 spots awarded? I'd like to know your guys' perspective on this before you guys get into some news to break into. Santoki, do you think that CONCACAF should get more spots or should see if you have a team by itself being sent to football games at the Olympics? What are your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I think in terms of representation, I think there should actually be one more spot for CONCACAF, and it would be ideal if they could designate that to a Caribbean team just to have a bit of inclusiveness within the Olympic Games. I know that might be up for debate because Caribbean teams obviously aren't at the level as the CONCACAF teams at that level, at the youth level, but I do think it will be good for variety and also inclusiveness to have a Caribbean team, and it will provide a different aspect, a bit of flair as well to the tournament.
Hmm. Is
Oh, I
Simon
think
there?
so.
Simon gone. Look, was Simon's initial question? Sorry, just to clarify, having an all Caribbean kind of all stars team that we can, or just an extra Caribbean country.
Just a Caribbean country, a CFU country.
Right. Okay. Because I'm just thinking they've done we've had expansion in the past, haven't we? With the World Cup,
Yeah,
which has helped CONCACAF and the Caribbean, and had expansion with the Gold Cup because we could potentially have 5 Caribbean countries at the 2017 Gold Cup through that playoff. So really, it would make sense, I think, in line with the Olympics' ethos and its whole approach
yeah,
to have that expansion applied to the Olympics as well,
yeah.
because it does tend to be the same CONCACAF countries that qualify for the Olympics, doesn't it? USA, Mexico, the same old teams.
Yeah, and I do think, obviously in the World Cup you go for the teams who have earned it. I do think the Olympics can be a bit more democratic and open it
Mm.
up to the Caribbean region, just to have a team in, even if they
Mm.
don't qualify on merit, have a team in just to bring something different to the table.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. You mentioned flair. I mean, obviously you
Yeah,
bring the colour and it would be
yeah,
a nice fresh alternative, I think, from track and field because that
yeah,
is, isn't it, where Caribbean countries traditionally excel. So it'd be nice to venture into a different sport in football. I mean, I'm just thinking of the 2015 CONCACAF Olympic Championship. I think it was last year. Haiti and Cuba got to that CONCACAF championship.
Yeah.
But they never looked that threatening. They never looked like they
No.
were really going to, push on and make it through.
Yeah, it's very hard to bridge the gap at that level, I'd say.
But of course,
when there's only 2 spots as well. I mean, America and Mexico pretty much guaranteed to secure those spots.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it comes down to infrastructure, doesn't it? I suppose the talent pool, the number of players to choose from. I think Mexico actually won the whole London 2012 football title.
They won the London one, yeah.
Which speaks volumes about Mexico and their status. That they actually won the whole thing, let alone the qualifiers. So that's the sort of competition that they're up against.
I guess that could lead into a wider debate as to whether you think CFU should have a team in the World Cup as well. Like a subdivision of CONCACAF, have one CFU team qualify directly into the World Cup.
What do you mean? Sorry, an automatic berth or?
Yeah, an automatic berth for the CFU to have one team qualify directly for the World Cup. That could be an interesting debate.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird because you have like UEFA as like a division, but then CONCACAF is like CFU is almost separate from CONCACAF. Yeah. Really weird.
Because CONCACAF's obviously one of the 6 confederations, isn't it? And then you've got CFU, which is that even smaller branch, so it's the sub body of the CONCACAF. But I mean, it always fascinates me, if you actually look at the composition of CONCACAF's membership and the fact that the CFU makes up 31 out of 41 of those countries. 31 out of 41. That is pretty significant. It fascinates me, and yet, pretty much all of the power still remains with North and Central America. And you've got all of those Caribbean countries that make up the membership. But you're right. If you had just one CFU team, automatically given a berth, I think that would start seeing real progress. It would give a real psychological boost as well to a lot of Caribbean countries. They see Jamaica trying to make consistently doing it. Oh, okay, wow,
exactly.
We can make it. I think Simon's back.
Maybe. Hello, guys.
Yeah, here we go.
All right. I heard what you said, Nathan, and I appreciate what you said in regards to the ethos of the Olympic Games, and you really hit the nail on the head there. Now, going into some news updates, Nathan, do you want to kick us off on some information around the region?
Yeah, so just I've got some transfer news for everyone. So the Barbadian trio, Romario Harewood, Mario Hart, and Ronaldo Bailey. What a great name! He actually featured on last year's Caribbean Young Stars that was featured on the Home of Caribbean Football. Those 3 have gone out to Indonesia. I believe they're on trial. I don't know which club, but they're out in the Indonesian Super League. So wish them all the best, and hopefully they can secure a contract. That follows on from Hayden Holligan, who's just gone to Sporting Cristina in Finland, another Barbadian player. And the Haitian striker Kerbins Balfour has joined the Karela Blasters FC, which were founded 2 years ago, and they're going to participate in the upcoming Indian Super League. So Balfour, I think he's 24. He's a bit of a journeyman. He's kind of just hasn't been able to settle anywhere and leapt from club to club. But I don't think that miss in the Copa America Centenario would do him much good. That miss against Peru, if you remember that in the last minute. That's what I kind of remember him for now. But so one final bit as well. The Trinidad and Tobago pair, youngsters, Jabari Mitchell and Keston Julian. I'm told that those 2 are out on trial at Dutch clubs, Eredivisie. I think Keston Julian's at AZ Alkmaar, which is the club of Levi Garcia, another Trinidad and Tobago youngster. So nothing official on them getting any contracts, but hopefully they do enough to impress and make a name for themselves in Holland.
All right, thanks for that, Nathan. Santokie, anything from you? Anything in Guyana or anything around the region?
Just a bit of an update from the Guyana Football Federation regarding an under-17 tournament. So in October there'll be a future under-17 tournament being held in Portugal, and Guyana has announced they have been invited to take part in that, which is a big move for the country. Also sending a team will be Jamaica, I believe Brazil, Bahamas, and quite a few other teams. There's about 16 teams in total out there, so it is a big move for Guyana. It's been aided by Alex Bunbury, who's a Canadian Hall of Fame footballer, who was born in Guyana and has decided to help out his country of birth by building an academy. And this is part of his work. He's got quite good links with Portugal, having played there previously for Club Maritimo. So he's used his networks to get Guyana invited, and that will be a massive boost to the under-17s, even though they were eliminated by Jamaica in the qualifiers in June. In CONCACAF qualifiers, it will be a boost for them to get consistent football in October in Europe.
Yeah, I really do like when players help out their country of roots, you could say, like what Jason Roberts did with Grenada, helping the homeless football team and having the Jason Roberts Foundation. So it's wonderful, wonderful signs that we've seen. And the point that Nathan was making a bit earlier as well about the Barbadian trio going on trial as well. Actually, when I was on holiday as well, I met up with a former press officer with the CONCACAF, Jason Harper, who does all the interviews and also the emceeing of the functions for the draw, and he was making mention of these three players going places, and so it's wonderful that these players are being given an opportunity, and we do wish them all the best, as it can be a significant part in helping them develop into professionals, obviously getting a salary and making football a career out of them, instead of working part-time and at a 9-to-5 job and then professionally otherwise. Because around the region, that's the reality when you play in a local league, especially in the likes of Cayman Islands, Jamaica, and other islands. So we do wish them all the best, and hopefully they'll be able to secure deals. And a major talking point we'll be discussing is Russell Latipi as well, and his role as head of youth football in Trinidad and Tobago. Santokie, do you want to kick us off with this discussion? Your initial thoughts on it?
Yeah, so it was initially announced that Russell Latipi, obviously a Trinidadian legend in his playing career, he has been appointed as under-17 coach for the qualifiers in September. Now, the strange thing, which was pointed out by journalist Lasana Liberd, was that Latipi had been given a 2-year contract, which is very unusual because under-17s, obviously, they play in a competition. Generally, the competition doesn't last for more than a month, and coaches are hired on a pay-as-you-coach basis for the month. So it was strange to see him given a 2-year contract. This was then clarified by the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association to state that Latipi will be head of youth football. So he will coach at all youth levels, under 15, under 17, and under 20, throughout the duration of his 2 years, which is an unusual move. And I'd like to get you guys' thoughts on the move. Do you think it's good to have a consistent coach at all levels? Or do you think you're spreading out a coach too thinly by having him coach different age groups, and there's no consistency there's no time to dedicate yourself to all 3 levels?
Nathan, you want to start off with that?
That's tough. I mean, in terms of the 2-year contract, I think looking at that on a positive note, it does offer a bit of sustainability. So, I mean, the TTFA in the past, maybe it's been criticised for not giving coaches enough stability, and they not really know they're coming or going. But Latipi, 2-year contract, at least he can knuckle down and focus for a good cycle or two to try and help progress as many Trinbagonian youngsters as possible. But he's not specifically the under-17 coach, is he? He's going to cover the under-15s, the under-17s, the under-20s. Presumably his technical staff will help him and support him across those age levels. I know that a goalkeeping coach has been named, an assistant coach has been named, and I think Latipi will do well. I do. I mean, he's already got he's already got the support of the fans, being such a huge icon in Trinidad and Tobago. He's a UEFA Pro license holder, which is no mean feat, and he won the Scottish Cup with Inverness last year, so he's got a bit of experience under his belt. And of course, he used to manage the Soca Warriors seniors back several years ago. I think was it 2010-11 or 11-12, but ultimately fell out with the federation. Surprise, surprise. That was when Jack Warner was in charge, I think. So I think he'll do well, and of course his first assignment will be in September as Trinidad and Tobago host. Also, will come into the under-17 qualifiers, and he'll really be expected to get the team into the CONCACAF Championship, which will be played in early 2017. But Simon, what what are your thoughts on Russell Latipi, the little magician, being named Trinidad and Tobago head of youth football? No reply.
No, he's walked off.
Is he
No,
gone?
When it comes to the youth teams, it's very.
oh,
Sorry, carry on, Simon. Carry on. It's gone a bit muffled, hasn't it?
Relates to the Caribbean level. Yeah.
No, Santokie, can you make any sense of that?
No, it's very muffled. Maybe
apologies to anyone watching. That's we can't control the poor internet connection, unfortunately.
The global nature of the show.
Yeah.
I think generally a lot of Caribbean teams would like to do what Trinidad have done and pay Latipi and pay a coach to manage their youth football for 2 years. They just don't have the finances, because it does seem quite logical to have a coach at the under-17 level, then he can mentor them as they go into the under-20 level. It's like a cycle. And so the players do get familiar with a coach, and he's also a role model in Trinidad, so it would be quite good.
Yeah.
I mean, the general technique from countries in the Caribbean is to employ a coach, usually a school coach, PE coach, to take the under-17s for a month, play them in a tournament, and then after that, they don't coach them anymore. There's no contract or anything, and that's due just to save money. So I think the TTFA have done it does seem like an ambitious move. They spent money on a contract, but ultimately, as you say, Latipi's got the credentials, and it's quite surprising that you could say he's dropped down a level to go and work with the under-17s.
Yeah, that's true, because he seemed like... Yep, Simon, you back?
Yeah. You want to make my point, or Nathan, do you want to finish what you
Simon,
said?
honestly, you go ahead, mate.
Okay. With the youth level, it's very difficult to say, because you have countries out there that have a set philosophy, but I find that with Trinidad, how they play at the senior level versus the under-17 and under-20 is very difficult. So if you're going to have a coach that manages all youth team, you need to make sure that transition to the senior team is smooth. And having a different sort of system or tactics is going to be difficult on the players. So to me, it was a shocking move. Do I want to see where you have a different coach at under-17 and under-20 level? I would prefer that way, because it is a lot of responsibility. You're talking about the under-20 level where you are budding professionals, and under-17 where you're still learning the fundamentals of the sport. So it's a brave, courageous move by Trinidad, and we're just going to have to hope that it pays off for the region in terms of qualifying for a FIFA under-17 World Cup, perhaps.
Yeah, that point on continuity is bang on, yeah, because I presumably he'll have to have a fair bit of dialogue with the senior coach, Stephen Hart, because, if he needs to know, doesn't he, Latipi, what the senior coach wants and the type of player that he's looking for, the profile of that player. And it would help a lot, as you say, if they played the same type of system and the same approach to games, because then if an under-17 player rises up, then they're more familiar, more comfortable if they do eventually get a senior call-up.
Right, even like last year with the CONCACAF Under-20 Championship in Jamaica, you remember when we did an article for your website, Nathan, as well, about Coach Winfred Schaefer was speaking about the under-20 players and how they lack that sort of cutting edge. If you look from that squad, only one has gone on to make their senior debut, and that was Michael Seaton, before he is even... And that was even before the tournament, from 17 years of age. So he was the only one you could say that was a true professional. We've seen him on trial at Inter Milan, we saw him at DC United as well. He was waived by Portland Timbers recently, but he has professional experience under his belt for a young player. He's still just 20 years of age. So what we'd like to see is how the Caribbean is going to approach other matters, not only just Russell Latipi, but what other countries are going to do. Because we've seen it as, like, for your clubs, like for you, Nathan, with West Brom and Santokie with Tottenham, the under-21s, the reserves, the academies, they have that same philosophy, so that when they get into the first team, they gel in quite smoothly. We've seen that time and time and again.
Yeah, that's true. I know it's a really far-fetched example, but you only have to look at Spain, don't you? And the part of their success has been because a lot of the players have stayed together. Same with Germany. and they've built up cohesion over the years. And then when they've eventually moved into the senior team, they all know each other's strengths and weaknesses. They're familiar with one another. They know how to play, what their job is. So, yeah, it is important to do that.
Santokie, you want to chime in anything else on this topic?
No, I agree with what you said. It is good to have a philosophy. I do think, as I was saying to Nathan while you cut off Simon, I do think a lot of Caribbean countries would like to employ the tactics which TTFA have done by giving a youth coach a contract to work with different levels, but due to finances, they tend to employ coaches for just the tournament and then terminate the contract. So I do think it's an ambitious move from TTFA, and someone like Latifi would be a role model for the kids. So hopefully he makes it work, and hopefully this is a start of a good movement for the youth of Trinidad.
Yes, I agree. What Latifi brings. He's a familiar face in Trinidad and Tobago. We know what he has done on the international stage, not only for his country as well, but international as well in Europe. So we do wish him all the best. And as you rightly said, it is bizarre because it's a step down, because he has had experience being in that manager sort of role. And it's good to see former Trinidad and Tobago players taking up part in management as well. Just another example, Dennis Lawrence, who was also an assistant to Roberto Martinez when he was at Swansea. So it's nice to see some of these players going into coaching. In Jamaica, some of them are not into that. They just like to be entrepreneurs, get into business side and clubbing and all that. So it's good to see they're staying in football, staying in the sport. So I don't think they're quite ready as yet, but it's good to see they're staying.
Oh, no.
I think he turned into R2D2.
Yeah, no, that is. I caught the last bit, but it's a good point that there's not a great tradition of Caribbean coaches. Saying this on social media, like recently, there's not a great tradition of Caribbean coaches, that have enjoyed much success, not just locally but abroad. I mean, Latifi, as I say, won the Scottish Cup with Inverness. Dennis Lawrence, assistant to Roberto Martinez. And then there are several people from the diaspora with Afro-Caribbean roots, like Keith Alexandra for St. Lucian, who managed, I think, Macclesfield and Lincoln City. But there aren't a great deal, are there? There aren't a great deal of Caribbean coaches that have been successful.
On that topic, Nathan, on your Twitter page, didn't you post something recently about the CFU hosting a coaching course?
Oh yeah, that's right. It was the CFU and University of the West Indies partnership that was featured on Gordon Derrick's manifesto. Yeah, and I think it was tying in with the Belgian FA.
Okay.
And trying to basically incorporate European coaching. And I think the deadline was on Monday. So today, sorry, the deadline was today to apply. And it was a little workshop, for Caribbean coaches, I think, to try and learn from. Something David John Williams has talked about from the TTFA. Yeah. Trying to get the UEFA support, because off UEFA you've got UEFA B, UEFA A, then UEFA Pro, which is the top one. I think there's a lot more that can be done for coaching, definitely, because CONCACAF, they only introduced their own coaching qualification in 2013 when Jeffrey Webb was in charge. So it's pretty late,
Well, it's promising to see Derrick fulfilling one of his pledges. Hopefully we'll get live streaming soon then.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. But I wouldn't hold your breath on that. But let's see. Hopefully for the Caribbean Cup, that will be good.
Yeah, I think Simon's cut off. Shall we move on to the main topic for discussion then?
Yeah, sure. What was that again, sorry?
On West Indies, whether a West Indies football team.
Of course.
So there has been a topic as to whether a West Indies football team, similar to what they do in cricket, combining the best players from the islands, would work on a footballing level. Would it cause too much disunity in the region, or would it strengthen CFU teams who do tend to fare pretty poorly on the global stage?
It's been talked about for quite some time, this has, isn't it? I remember when I set up my website and I really started taking an interest in Caribbean football 4 or 5 years ago, this was something that came up, and it hasn't really gone away. I posed the question on Twitter the other day, and it got kind of mixed responses. Some people are pro West Indies team, some people are anti West Indies team. And I think, there are advantages and disadvantages to it. But I just, at the moment, I can't really work out how it would all come together and come to fruition. Because if you had a West Indies team, say you had the best players from all the 31, or it wouldn't be all 31 members, would it? It would be probably Jamaican, Trinidad and Tobago, Haitian, Cuban, St. Kitts and Nevis, Guyana, etc. Then what would happen to the other countries? Would they continue without their star assets, or would those best players just go off, to represent for World Cup qualifiers, for example, for the main event one?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of cricket, I mean, you do tend to have a smaller pool. It tends to be Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and Guyana, who form the majority of the West Indies teams. And that means the domestic cricket, so countries, for instance, Guyana playing cricket or Trinidad, are without their main stars, so they're kind of depleted as their best players play for the West Indies. So I think in football that would be problematic. And you'd also have the issue of politics. Would a football federation support the West Indies if none of their, say, for instance, St. Kitts, if none of their players were chosen for the West Indies team?
Exactly.
Would they? How would you come to a balance? Because essentially, if you were to pick a best 11 from the Caribbean, it'd essentially be a Trinidadian and Jamaican team at this point in time.
Yeah, you'd have no representatives from like Anguilla, would you, for example?
Yeah, exactly. So it is an interesting topic, and whether the fans would get behind the West Indies football team, or whether they would, whether they'd be more loyal to an individual country.
I was watching a DVD, Far in Babylon, recently, and obviously that talked about how the West Indies cricket team really brings together all the islands, and you have that camaraderie and the spirit, and everybody pulls in and gets behind the. Would that be the same with football though? Because is it on the same popularity level as a sport like cricket?
Yeah, I guess football.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Yeah. Hey Simon.
Did you catch that, Simon? Did you catch
the cricket part? Yeah. Santokie, you can finish your point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, football's not on the same level as cricket, and also the West Indies cricket team, what you referred to in Babylon in the 70s, was more of a political thing. So you had the Afro-Caribbeans uniting against basically their former slave owners, the English and the Australians, whereas I don't think football in 2016 would have that same dynamic.
True.
And appeal of the West Indies uniting. So it'd be quite interesting to see what fans would do. But I don't think it's a realistic possibility at this point in time, just because of all the regulations about being a FIFA nation and so, etc. etc.
Yeah, that's right. There's still a lot of things to be ironed out, but I can't really see that sort of idea being planned through. You're not going to see, and the question will be asked, what is the West Indies? Is the West Indies just the British Caribbean, or is it the entire Caribbean that can be asked? Does that mean that a Haitian player will never get into this team? There's still a lot of questions to be asked, because there's countries in the Caribbean that will never get picked for the West Indies team, like Cayman Islands, Bermuda, who are British overseas territories by themselves. It's quite strange, though, because we've had an Anguillan represent the West Indies cricket team, but he's represented by Anguilla, as you know, as a British overseas territory. So it's quite strange, and it has to be something that has been proper to think about and analyze the thoughts and the consequences of it. What does this mean for CONCACAF as well? So I think it's too much of a complicated sort of scenario, and country versus country it should be, and I think that's the way that it should be done.
You've got to think though. The point was made recently on Twitter soon that if a West Indies team did happen, do you guys think that it might increase the chances of Caribbean presence at the World Cup finals? Because obviously there's only ever been 4 Caribbean countries at the World Cup since its inception in 1930. Do you think that by having the best players from each country, that would inevitably result in higher Caribbean representation every 4 years when the World Cup comes around?
It's still quite broad, Nathan, because you have 35 countries in CFU, and the person that are going to be benefit, you'd think, is the big 4 that you'd like to say in the Caribbean: the Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana. I think would benefit the most from it. Obviously, if Haiti and Cuba is involved, yes, I do think that the chances would increase to qualify for a World Cup. But how is this going to be? Is West Indies still going to be part of a CONCACAF region? Guyana is on the South American mainland, so are we part of CONMEBOL? So as I said, there's still a lot more questions to be asked about this.
I think on paper, if you had the strongest Caribbean team, it would seem to boost their chance of the World Cup. But in terms of like a social dynamic, the language barriers, so players from Haiti, Puerto Rico coming together in a team which is predominantly English speaking might mess up the dynamic. So there's quite a lot of dynamics to work with, and also the geographical difference. Where do they train? Where do they meet to form camps? Those kind of logistics.
Mm. It's interesting actually that I've just remembered that there is a website online that is called the West Indies Football Association.
Yeah, it's run by an English guy, I think.
Yeah, it's Scottish. I think he's English or British. I'm just literally I'm on it now. I'm on the website now, and it's affiliated with the NF Board and NFB America. It's the West Indies Football Association, and I believe they played some games against local Caribbean clubs in the past, and they had their own team called the WIFA Pirates, which is like a development squad, and I think it was founded by a Scottish goalkeeper that played in Trinidad and Tobago, James Baird, I think James Baird, who seems like a really interesting guy. So it's kind of like it's happened that the ball has kind of already got rolling on this before, albeit on a small scale. I think.
Maybe we can get him on a future show to discuss his idea or plan.
Yeah. I think that was looking more maybe at like club level rather than international level. I think it's fascinating though. I think it's really fascinating the whole topic, and whether it could actually materialise into something for the future. But there are pros and cons, and it's so split as well. That's when you know it's genuinely divisive. Yeah. It's so split. Some people are really for it, some people are really against it. It will be fascinating to do a poll and see what the general consensus is. Yeah, because I think some teams would benefit and other teams really wouldn't benefit. Exactly. You'd have a massive player pool as well. Sorry, yeah.
Has Simon just gone off again?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Should we wrap it up there then?
Yeah.
That was the main point of discussion. So next week, guys, we're going to be doing a special World Cup preview. As you know, World Cup qualifiers start next Friday, so not long to go. 2nd of September. Myself, Nathan, and Simon will be previewing the two groups which have Caribbean teams, looking at likely outcomes, teams, selections, any new players who have been recruited for the team. So be sure to tune in at that on next Monday, next Monday. And on Friday, the 2nd of September, myself and Nathan will be commentating on Rabble Sports for St. Vincent versus USA. Big game. It will be 8:30 p.m. UK time, 3:30 p.m. Caribbean time, and 2:30 p.m. for any fans in Jamaica. So tune into Rabble Sports where you can hear myself and Nathan talk about St. Vincent and talk a bit about USA, but predominantly St. Vincent, I'd imagine.
Yeah, predominantly. I mean, I think our knowledge is probably a little bit better on Vincent Heat than the USA, or mine is anyway. But that should be good. And I'll put out a stream for anyone that does want to watch the game. And remember to mute your commentary. Log on to Rabble Sports, and jobs are good. And then just to say, next week's show as well might be a little bit longer. Because we are doing a special. So
yeah,
good stuff.
As always, any questions, just feel free to drop us in the comments box on YouTube or message us on social media. We're on Twitter. Nathan, do you want to shout out your Twitter handle?
Yeah, at Caribbean football abbreviated to FTBL. Just constant Caribbean football stuff. So if you want to have a look at that, please do. And we shall see everybody pretty soon next week then.
Before I forget, also, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe to Reggae Boys Commentary on YouTube. Simon's excellent channel. He uploads daily videos asking tough questions, news updates on Jamaican football and Caribbean football. So always handy to subscribe so you're always in the know about his latest videos. Nathan, anything else you want to say?
That's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. And if you want to contribute to the West Indies debate as well, because it is really interesting, then just drop a little message in the comments, or I know some of you have been doing that, or just get in touch with one of us, one of the presenters, and we'll share some thoughts and engage in some discussion. So yeah, we shall see everybody next week then. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.